What's up YouTube? It's ALLDAYANTHONY, and yeah, I'm making an Evo vlog today. I want to apologize because it's been so long since I've made the last vlog in the car, but it's just because the weather's been awesome and I've been doing way too much riding on the Grom and on the Speed Triple lately, so the car has kind of just been sitting in the garage lonely and not getting any attention. So I wanted to change that. I wanted to get out here and make a vlog today, so that's what I'm doing. So I was actually sifting through some of the comments on some of the previous Evo videos just to kind of see what everybody wants to see, what kind of topics they want to hear me talk about or go over with the Evo. And one of the ones I came over was whether or not the Evo makes a good daily driver, which is a really good question. That's a question that I probably should have asked myself before I bought the car in the first place, but it's an Evo and that's what I wanted. So I guess to jump into this, we need to talk about what qualities do a good daily driver have? What makes a good daily driver? So what? Gas mileage, right? That's probably really, really important. You got to get some good MPGs to justify it being a daily driver. It's got to be probably comfortable, right? I would assume it's got to be decently comfortable. It's got to have your necessities, probably what? Air conditioning, some type of stereo, radio, power locks, power windows. I guess aren't super necessary, but let's face it, everybody loves power windows and power locks. And if you have a girl in the car and she's like, how do you roll down your window? And you're like, oh, you gotta crank that shit. Yeah, sorry, there's no button. You feel kind of ghetto, because I've been there before in my old car, and every time I'd be like, oh, hey, before you get out, can you lock that door? And they're always like, I'm like, yeah, I just, don't have power locks. Don't be a bitch about it. So anyway, all right, so power locks, power windows, moving on. You gotta have, I'm assuming you've got it to be relatively nice. The interior's gotta be somewhat nice. It doesn't have to be insanely nice, but it's gotta be a good place to be if it's gonna be your daily. What else? And then it's got to do good in all 4 seasons, right? 4 seasons is something we get here in Idaho personally. So you got to have a car that's going to be able to make it through the snow. You got to have a car that's going to be able to make it through some icy winters, rain, and all that. So that's another thing. Let's think. What else? I want to go over insurance and all of that, but I know that's not going to really. It's not something that really applies to a daily driver. Being costly on insurance, because depending if you have a shitty driving record, you can have a Honda Civic that costs you $300 a month to drive. So insurance isn't really a factor in the whole daily driver thing. I guess overall room is something that some people look for in a daily driver, and I guess it's something that I would look for too, because I honestly I love having 4 seats, 4 doors. It makes things really easy when it comes to picking friends up or taking little trips, picking up groceries and stuff like that. It's really, really simple because I can just throw the groceries in the back seat if I need to. All right, so another thing that crossed my mind was probably maybe cost of maintenance, cost of owning the car, just in general. A lot of people look for that in a daily driver. Like, that's why most people buy Japanese cars, because they're, cheap to fix, easy to maintain. So that could be something as well. I guess we'll just put that on the list with everything else. All right, so I'm pretty sure that covers everything for a daily driver for the most part. If I missed anything, just ask me down in the comments and I can try to cover it there. But for the most part, let's just go over what we talked about. All right, so we know what makes a good daily driver, so let's take the Evo and basically compare it to the qualities that a daily driver would have. And also, just for reference, I'm going to be comparing the Evo IX, not the Evo IX RS, not an Evo 8 RS, not an Evo 10. I'll leave that comparison for somebody else, but I'm going to go over specifically the Evo IX. Okay, with everything said and covered, let's talk about gas mileage. Does the Evo get good MPGs? No, not really at all. I would say it's pretty close to what the book says, which is about 17 miles to the gallon in town and about 20 to 21 on the freeway or so. Keep in mind too that you're getting not great gas mileage on a car, and you're also paying premium gas prices. So you're not paying, cheap 87 gas. You're paying 91, 93 gas always in this car. So that's not cheap as well. But I know that it costs me right now, with the way the gas market is, it costs me what, 30, 30 something bucks to fill up completely. So not terrible, but it goes quick. You could probably go through a quarter tank of gas in 5-10 minutes, depending on how hard you're boosting. And really, it's like every time I crossed in a boost, I could basically see the gas needle just slowly dropping every time I do that. Whatever, you got to pay to play, right? All right, so let's talk about the necessities of a daily driver. Does it have air conditioning? Does it have power windows, power locks, yada, yada, yada? So yeah, it does have air conditioning. Does it work well? No, not really. Basically settings 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much all the same, which basically they slightly blow cold air, but it's really not that noticeable. And then there's setting number 4, which is basically like a hurricane in your car. I don't know who designed it to be that way, but it's not a very refined system at all. I mean, number 4 is pretty intense. So it does work, yeah, but only on setting number 4. That's the only way anything's going to get cold in the car. So that's something to keep in mind. Power windows and power locks. So it does have power windows, which are pretty great coming from a car that didn't have those, so I feel less ghetto. And it does have power locks. You'll have the power locks in the car on both the driver and passenger side, and then you'll also have the fancy little button so you can walk away and lock your car like a badass. So it's got those, and then it also has power mirrors. Power mirrors, I don't really feel like are a necessity. I mean, I set my mirrors once and I never ever touch them again, so I don't really think those are what makes a daily driver or not. All right, something I just realized, because I just hit 7 potholes in a row, is that I didn't really cover whether or not the car was comfortable. Like whether or not you could have a kid in the car or a baby in the car. I'm just gonna be straight up, man. This car is uncomfortable as all hell. The stock springs are extremely stiff, and you'll feel pretty much every single bump and every single little crack or line in the road. I'm upgraded to the Swift springs, and I'm on the MR Bilsteins, so the ride's a little bit different. I'd actually say it's more comfortable than the stock setup, but I mean, even with that said, it is still bumpy as shit, man. So coilovers could fix that, but it is definitely not what I would consider a comfortable car. I mean, especially because you're sitting in these really rigid Recaro seats, and that doesn't really help at all either. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's talk about overall room in the Evo. It's actually not that bad, guys. For being what it is, you have plenty of room in the front 2 seats. The rear seats can get a little cramped depending, on how tall you guys are in the front, but for the most part, I would say there's plenty of room. I mean, plenty that you'd want from a daily driver anyways. So the front seats actually don't really have any electronic adjustability. There's nothing down here on the sides, but it does have the front switch underneath the bottom of the seat to adjust the, I guess, how close and how far it gets from the steering wheel. And then you have a small, I don't really know how to describe this thing. It's basically like a twisty thing that you can twist to kind of basically adjust the seat position. And it's not like you can completely collapse the seat. It's really just some slight positioning, because the Recaros, they're not meant to fold in like a normal seat would. So that's something to keep in mind. But for the most part, I would say there's plenty of room for 4 people. I'd say 5 people would get pretty cramped, but you can make that work. Okay, trunk space. There's actually quite a bit of trunk space. You could probably fit maybe four bodies in there comfortably, maybe an ice chest, a couple golf bags. I'm just kidding, but seriously though, you could fit bodies back there. All right, so let's talk about the overall cost of maintaining an Evo. Is it cheap? No, not really. As most people know, Evos are getting rarer and rarer, and their parts are getting harder and harder to come by, with them being out of production for so long. So I know Mitsubishi still has a stockpile of them, but are those going to be around for forever? Or are they going to continue making them? I really don't know. But I'll tell you right now, if you know how to work on your own car, and if you can basically take the time to learn how to work on your Evo, then I would say it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. But for the most part, it's not a car that you can just take to any old mom and pop shop to get it fixed, or take to a dealership, because these cars are pretty finicky, man. I mean, you have to know how to work on them correctly, or something could go wrong pretty fast. So I would say that It's not the cheapest car to maintain, but it's definitely no Ferrari or Lamborghini by any means, but it's something that you're going to be paying a lot more than your typical Toyota Camry. But if you take the time to learn how to work on it, then I think it can really pay off in the long run. All right, so let's talk about how the Evo does in all 4 seasons and all different weather conditions. This I'd probably say is the Evo's like shining quality, and probably one of the main reasons why I daily drive it. It does absolutely awesome. I literally could not ask for a better car. In the snow and the dirt and the ice, whatever I put it through, it takes it like a fucking champ, man. I mean, the car is absolutely amazing. So some people know the Evo IX has an active center differential, also known as an ACD. Now all this is, man, is just a little button that you click right here which chooses between 3 different settings, which is tarmac, gravel, and snow, and it's displayed down here in the dash with this little green light. And what this does is basically just adjust the power delivery to the wheels to compensate for which weather condition you're driving in. Now, for the most part, I leave it in tarmac 24/7, and it just does awesome. I've put in gravel a couple times, but I've never really driven the car in a shit ton of dirt or gravel, so it's not something I click on a lot. But snow would probably be the other setting that I use. And here in Boise, we get snow a decent amount, so I'll click the snow setting, and the car does absolutely amazing. Like, literally, I could not ask for a better car in all weather conditions that we have here in Idaho, man. I mean, it just does absolutely awesome. The snow setting pretty much makes it seem like the snow isn't even there, and if you have snow tires on top of keeping it in that setting, then the car handles like a supercar that's meant for the snow. It's really, really insane. And it's kind of hard to explain unless you've actually experienced it, but it really does just that well. So honestly, I couldn't ask for a better daily driver in all 4 seasons. So it was at this point that the microphone unplugged out of the GoPro for some reason, so I just figured I could cover this with a little bit of overlay audio. So what I wanted to talk about for this segment was overall drivability of the Evo. Like, you know, how is it with driving in boost? How is it with driving out of boost? How is it with the AC on? And how is it being stuck in traffic? So unless you're driving a heavily modified Evo or an Evo with a heavy clutch, they're pretty easy cars to drive. Boost is pretty docile in the low RPMs and really only punches you in the face when you punch the gas. So you're not going to lose control of the car by any means, and really most of the power is going to be in the upper RPMs. It's not some type of torque monster or some type of Mustang that's going to drive off into a crowd of people and kill everyone. But I do have to say that boost is extremely addicting in this car. Once you get an aftermarket intake, you pretty much hear everything that the turbo is doing, and any shift you make that doesn't have a sound just makes you feel empty inside. But that's not to say that the car doesn't have power without hitting boost. You can usually hit around 5 to 10 pounds of boost and keep up with the flow of traffic and still have plenty of power. However, once you hit 20 pounds of boost, you're usually pretty boost infatuated, and it's really hard to stop at that point, which could land you a speeding ticket or 2, but if you're smart about it and pick up a radar detector, you'll be able to stay out of trouble. I mean, I've had the car for 4 years now, and I don't have 1 speeding ticket in the Evo. I guess one way to stay out of trouble would be driving with the AC on. For some reason, the car just kind of feels luggish with the AC on, but I guess that's pretty normal in most cars. As far as sitting in traffic, the car does great. I've never had any issues with it overheating. However, you will see a ton of heat venting out of the hood, and you'll probably hear the fan kick on every 10 seconds or so. That pretty much covers the drivability category. Like I said before, unless it's a heavily modified Evo or has a heavy clutch, it's going to drive just like any other car, except you're going to have a shit ton of boost at your fingertips. Now, would I let a friend drive this car? Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, I've let a lot of friends drive my car, and it's not a big deal until they hit boost because they get a crazy look in their eye and they can't seem to take their foot off the gas pedal. But as long as they're on a back road or doing it somewhere safe, then that's totally normal, and I'll admit, I think it's hilarious seeing somebody hit boost for their first time. Best thing in the world. Best thing in the world. It never gets old. But anyways, guys, I could go on and on about this car, but really, that's my thoughts on it being a daily driver. It'll do just fine as a daily. Is it the best daily? Hell no. But just accept it for what it is, and you'll absolutely love it. So, anyways, if you guys dig the content, if you guys like the Evo video, if you want to see more Evo videos, then please let me know down in the comments. This is All Day Anthony. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.